All right, so there is some back and forth going on between Mr. Bernardino Sanders and Kamala Harris. Okay, there's some very interesting things going on right now in the campaign. Some very important things, mind you, that you really need to know about here. But basically, if you guys don't know, back in I think it was 2017, Kamala Harris had co-sponsored his Medicare for All bill, and it basically, indicated to us that Kamala Harris is like a real progressive. She's not like a Hillary Clintonite who doesn't support something like that and rather wants a public option and to just stick with Obamacare instead. She's a real progressive, unlike the other one. She's really drawing a line in the sand. Now, what has happened is she has actually changed her tune on that same Medicare for All bill. Now, firstly, here I want to talk about how you guys may or may not have heard about the story, but basically she was in the Hamptons, having big fundraisers, big dollar donor fundraisers with rich people, where you go and there's a bunch of rich people there and they all donate $2,700 to you and you make a nice chunk of change for your campaign. I'll just read you guys this from Bloomberg. It says, Teslas and Maseratis lined the street as Kamala Harris greeted guests sipping drinks from plastic cups with her name on them and eating cinnamon sugar donuts from Dreesen's at a fundraiser hosted by movie executive Jamie Petrikoff and his wife Kelly as the summer of Democratic fundraisers rolled out on in East Hampton. The senator and former California prosecutor assured donors, quote, I believe in capitalism during a jam-packed weekend of pitching her plan to save the middle class. Harris is looking to raise enough money to keep her campaign fueled through the next debates in September and beyond. She also had events on Martha's Vineyard, the Massachusetts island that is a playground for celebrities, including the Obamas, Bill Clinton, and David Letterman on Friday and Saturday. Tickets range from $100 to $2,800. And then it goes on to talk about how there's like a bunch of other candidates doing that. So, and I'll read this briefly to you. It says, Harris's event on Sunday night went head-to-head with one at musician John Bon Jovi's house for Cory Booker. Pete Buttigieg will be in the Hamptons over Labor Day weekend. Joe Biden, who will be in the Hamptons next weekend, has already hit up Cape Cod, Aspen, and Sun Valley, Idaho. So, to me, if you're a voter, right, and you look at this, right, you just hear what I just explained to you, that all of these different candidates are going to the Hamptons to basically beg these big dollar donors for their cash, and there's two who are not. Okay, Elizabeth Warren will be doing this in the general election. Bernie Sanders will not be doing it in either election, not the primary nor the general. He's not doing it. Warren's not doing it currently, but she will be doing it in the general election. So when you look at that, just right off the bat, just that alone should be a really good indicator to the point where you're like, I probably should be supporting the guy who's not going to the Hamptons to get a bunch of money from big dollar donors and rich people in the Hamptons. I'd much rather support someone who's actually dependent upon the people that he's representing for the donations because it means he's actually going to represent us. To me, that's like a commonsensical, just snap of the finger thing, right? For some people, maybe not so much, but that's really what it should be to me. But in addition to that, folks, it actually turns out that she actually passed up on a CNN climate crisis town hall. It says news: Senator Kamala Harris's top bundlers are hosting fundraisers for her in downtown LA. Those fundraisers directly conflict with CNN's climate crisis town hall, which Harris is not attending, and I believe she's the only one of all of the candidates who qualified to decline, is my understanding of it. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's my understanding of it, so that's very significant as well. So not only is she going to the Hamptons to basically plead and beg these rich people for their money, for their donations, but she's also in the process passing up things like a CNN climate debate. So what does that tell you? It tells you that she's more interested in courting very wealthy donors into her campaign. And I'm going to come back to her comment about how, she said, I support capitalism. So she made some interesting comments, okay? She said, quote, I support Medicare for all, but as you may have noticed, over the course of the many months, I've not been comfortable with Bernie's plan. The Medicare for all plan, Harris said at the fundraiser, according to remarks provided by her campaign. And it says it comes back to listening. I've been listening to people, and people don't want to your point, they don't want to not have a private option. So basically what she's saying here is I don't support Bernie's Medicare for all plan anymore. I prefer my own plan, which has a little pocket for private insurance and a longer phase-in period. So that's what she's saying, right? Okay. And Bernie snapped. Bernie Sanders snapped. He absolutely snapped here, okay? He responded to this by saying, I don't go to the Hamptons to raise money from billionaires. If I ever visited there, I would tell them the same thing I have said for the last 30 years. We must pass a Medicare for all system to guarantee affordable health care for all, not just for those who can afford it. So this specifically is obviously in reference to Kamala Harris. Honestly, not just Kamala Harris. It's probably in reference to people like Joe Biden. I don't know what Cory Booker's stance on Medicare for all is, but possibly him. Basically, all of the candidates who are going to the Hamptons. As I just told you, there are multiple candidates going to the Hamptons who are going out to raise money who don't support Medicare for all. But this specifically, obviously, is aimed at Kamala Harris because she's the one who has backtracked from supporting Bernie's Medicare for all plan, and in addition, he has also, or she, sorry, is the one going to the Hamptons to raise the money. So those two things in conjunction tell us that indeed Bernie is going after Kamala Harris here. Bernie, mollywhopped Kamala Harris essentially. And I'm glad to see him say this. Obviously, he doesn't name drop Kamala, because then all the people who, allow people like Pete Buttigieg and others to just basically, go after Bernie Sanders, they're fine with that. But if Bernie ever critiques any of his primary opponents, which is what a primary is for, then, pull out the pitchforks, And there's even this tweet down here, which is pretty interesting, just shows a video of what's going down over there, in the Hamptons. These are the sort of things that they're going to. I have actually seen video from the past of, her going into Comcast execs fundraisers, and she always seems to be kind of shy. She doesn't really want to be seen by cameras when she's walking into these events. For obvious reasons, not a good look for her amongst people who are actually progressives. Her campaign, I believe, her campaign slogan is like Kamala Harris for the people or something like that. It's not Kamala Harris for the people, dog. It's Kamala Harris for the rich people, the people who are her donors. That's what it's for. Now, I also want to jump back to her comment here. So this is from Bloomberg. This is a comment that she actually had made, okay? It says, the senator and former California prosecutor assured donors, I believe in capitalism. And there was another quote, I believe, where it says, I believe in capitalism, but capitalism is not working for most people, Harris said on the patio steps of the Petrikoff house. She said she recognized people who have become successful working hard and following rules, but that the middle class needs help. So I find this comment to be really hilarious, of her saying, I support capitalism. Now, I'm a capitalist myself. I'm a social democrat, so I do not believe in abolishing capitalism. Some of you guys may disagree with that. Some of the people who are, sort of the further left flavors, you may disagree with that. But personally, I'm somebody who's a social democrat. And I just have to say that, the context of that statement is basically like, think about it like this. Image this in your head, okay? Picture this in your head. You're talking about she's in front of a bunch of really, really wealthy people, okay, who are donating the max number. So when you go to one of these things, there's a bunch of people who all donate the max of like $2,700. So you're making a lot of money for your campaign. And these are all rich people with very high incomes, very high net worths, etc., etc., etc. And you're telling them, I believe in capitalism, So it's like the way that you're basically saying that is, I'm not going to be a candidate who is somebody who is a sort of threat to your status quo, because that's really what we need, guys. Billionaires are a policy failure, okay? Billionaires should be banned. There's no way on God's green earth that there should be anybody with over $1 billion in net worth. And dude, that's like a milquetoast statement, okay? That is a milquetoast statement, okay? Because think about how many millions are in a billion. There's 1,000 millions in a billion. So you could have 950 million in net worth, 900 million, 850 million, 800 million, whatever. We're talking about people with net worths of like 130 billion now with Jeff Bezos, I'm not sure what he's at right now. It could be 130, 140, 150, 160. I'm talking about just the $1 billion cutoff in terms of net worth. So that should be completely banned. So what that tells you is Kamala Harris as a candidate is basically telling these rich people, I am not going to be a candidate who is a threat to your status quo and your being. Bernie Sanders, on the other hand, is like, yo, I'm finna tax the ish out of you, and you're really going to be in trouble because you are a policy failure. You are a blood-sucking tick on society. You know, things like social cohesion are not taken seriously enough. Wealth inequality is a very big problem, folks. Wealth inequality is a massive, massive problem, and all you're really doing is, as wealth inequality goes up, I mean, the odds of just sort of a revolution by the people, physical, is just gonna rise up. Once so little people have so much of the wealth, I mean, it's inevitable. You're just making an inevitability. Bernie Sanders is trying to save your lives. In fact, it's funny that we're talking about the Hamptons because I think it's the Mark Blythe is his name. He says that the Hamptons are an underlying area and they're easy to storm. It's a saying of his, so it's funny that convenient that we're talking about the Hamptons right now, but that's what it's telling you, man. So Kamala Harris is a shapeshifter. Most importantly, she just does whatever's politically expedient. But I refuse to support any candidate who does any of these big dollar donations. That is the reason why I support Mr. Bernardino Sanders, and I suspect that's why you do too.